Oh, I've made previous videos about using wire, 24 gauge copper wire, to make it like a 4-panel shade or an 8 or 6 or 10. I'm doing the same thing here. You know what kind of glass this is called, Whitney, Rosebud, whatever. The main purpose of using the wire, got a mind frame here. Yeah, the main purpose of using the wire is that I get it soldered on the top, on the back side here. Okay, so as you can see, this stuff is anything but flat. Okay, which raises some concerns. Now, some of you people may have watched one of the videos about putting it together, and I didn't solder the back of the panel shade because I'm working on glass and I want the wire to be right there on the top. You know, if you've made a panel and you've soldered both sides, you can still use the wire, but you may have to jack it up. This is heavy cardstock, and this is a piece of mat board. I don't know if you can tell the difference in the thickness. Okay, and people say, well, what's the difference between, mat board? Mat board, like, is just what you use to put around pictures. Okay, that's what this is. Where'd you go? That's what this is. This is heavy cardstock. Well, people say, what's the difference? You see how flimsy this is? Okay, can you see how flimsy this is? This is mat board. You see how flimsy this isn't? It's a lot thicker than this stuff. Okay, but I do have two different pieces just in case. So basically, I've got a piece of the mat board underneath it. Okay, and let's get everything a little closer. Right? It's tough getting it started, I know, from experience, but basically, I hope this comes in frame. I've got an umbrella over my head to try to cut the glare down. I'm sorry about the glare. Okay. And, I know some people say, well, this is one of the kind of shades that, with this kind of texture, which I want on the outside. Okay, there was a whole thing with a lady that picked this out, was that I wanted on the outside. This is something that masking tape or electrical tape just would not stick to. The other thing is that you have to be able to control how much solder you're going to be putting on the top here. If you can't, then you can put a piece of paper in the seam so that the solder doesn't jump the gap. Okay, you want that separate. Okay, you want to keep that separate. So I'll use that mat board trick if the glass doesn't lay flat. Okay, I'm just tacking this together. I'm just tacking it along the back, and I will do the same thing on the bottom. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead. Okay. So that's up underneath there. So, right, because I want it like I showed you. If I have to use that piece of mat board like I am, that's what I have to do. It's okay. Okay. Barely getting solder on there. Same problem there. Okay. Same problem there. You have to be able to control how much solder you get on your tip. Because you don't want to bridge that gap like I'm showing you, see? And I know some people ask, well, why can't you use like 18 gauge? 18 gauge is not supple enough. I arrived at being able to use the 24 gauge copper wire because figuring out how to do this was an evolutionary process. I had tried the 18 gauge right off the bat, And when I picked something like this up and started to fold it, the 18 gauge wire ripped the foil off the top of the pieces, which was not the effect I wanted. Okay. See how it is? It was not the effect I wanted. So let's try a thinner one, okay? See? Now I'm going to shut the camera off and do the rest of these. And I'm going to turn it around and do the same thing on the bottom. This is actually part of a custom order for a lady. I showed her this. I have to make 2 sconces for her that she's going to put on either side of their bed. And I made the sconces out of junk parts. That I took apart a chandelier and used a canopy, which is what you use for a ceiling plate when you're hanging a shade on a ceiling from an electrical box. And she loved that because she likes the funky stuff. She liked the funky dunky. And my helper Rose, these things gave her a hard time trying to copper foil these because I told her that it had to be overlapped on the very top, not on the side. Okay, right here in the middle. So it kind of gave her a hard time, but that's part of the territory. It needs to be overlapped right in the middle so you don't pull the foil off when you fold it, because that's what's going to happen. It's going to get folded, and I'll show you that when I get the wire on top and bottom. So I have to make 2 for a lady, and because I love this cotton, I love this texture so much, I'm making 1 for myself. And gotta be careful you don't bridge that gap. So I'm going to shut the camera off and then do the rest of it, and we'll get back to you when I'm working on the bottom. Thank you.